Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Greetings, empathy heroes. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. I am the creator and host of this podcast. Thanks for being here. Today's episode 23, I sit down with Shannon Strucci to explore parasocial relationships. What are those? Well, generally they're described as like non-reciprocal relationships we create in our heads, usually with fictional characters or famous people. And we explore that and the sort of mental health impacts of parasocial relationships. We talk about loneliness and video games and anime and manga, and Shannon was gracious enough to teach me a lot of this stuff because I am not really well versed in the YouTube space, so I learned a lot, which was great. And we just talked about like balance and creating boundaries as well, being someone in the YouTube space that has to deal with, maybe some unsavory characters or weird comments, all of that. So it's a really interesting conversation. It's a long one, and it's worth listening to. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Before we get to the episode, I wanted to read a iTunes review. You too can leave You, Me, Empathy ratings and reviews in iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It's a free way to support the show. So please do that. It helps out the show a lot, and I would appreciate it. But I wanted to read this particular review from user the Kim Sutton. Known, thank you. While I have not been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, undertreated hypoactive thyroidism in the past has led me to feel much in the same way as episodes 15 and 16 describe. Unfortunately, while I am better, I know there are many, many, many people who, 1, feel like they are alone, and 2, are too scared to get help. Your podcast will undoubtedly provide the assurance and support so many long for. Keep up the great work! Oh, Kim Sutton, you are a delight, and thank you for saying that. It means the giant pale blue dot to me for you saying that, so thank you, Kim. And you too, your review could be read on this podcast if you'd like it to be. Just go to iTunes, search for You, Me, Empathy, and leave a rating and review. Thank you so much. All right. Enjoy episode 23 on parasocial relationships with Shannon Strucci. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our neuroses, our mental illnesses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being human. You, Me, Empathy is a safe place, a conversation between friends, a place to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm elated to take another empathy voyage on the topic of parasocial relationships, with talented videographer, insightful film editor and essayist, and lover of all that is dark, Shannon Strucci. Hello, Shannon.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh,
I'm
you're very
excited.
welcome. I'm excited to catch up with you again. The listener should know that maybe the listener doesn't need to know this information, but I'm going to give it up anyways. Shannon was a guest on my previous podcast, Joy Sandwich, and it was such a great conversation, and we talked about her sort of joy of the dark and morbid, and it was so, I loved that conversation, and we lost the audio. I felt so bad.
It happens.
It does happen, but, it was just, I was just like, that's gold. I mean, but, this show should tell me that I need to live in the present and just enjoy the conversation for what it was. So, anyways.
The memory of it.
The memory of it is, it's a bright spot in my memory, for sure. So, I'm happy to have you on, Shannon, and I'm excited to talk about parasocial relationships. And we'll get into what that is, but I will just say at the top here that it is not relationships with the paranormal.
No. Technically it could be, but that's not really.
Yes, you're right. Technically it could be, but that's not really. We'll get into that. We'll get into all that. But we always start the show with a check-in, just a little emotional check-in, to see how the week's been going, all that stuff. How are you doing? How was your week, Shannon?
Really good. I know I already told you this before we started recording, but yesterday I went with some of my friends and we saw Greg Sestero, who wrote The Disaster Artist and was in the room, and he signed my copy at The Disaster Artist, and he was very nice. He was we're going to talk about this in a minute, but not that I really had that much of a conversation with him or anything, but he seemed very gracious and friendly.
Nice.
And I was really happy too, because the Q&As can be terrible sometimes, and people ask really invasive questions or sort of self-indulgent questions. And there was some stuff people probably could have Googled, but overall the audience questions were really good, and the Q&A was really fun and interesting. And it was just really, and I hung out with my friends after that too.
Awesome.
It was just a good day yesterday, so I'm in a good mood.
That's good. Yeah. Were you able to get in a queue? A question?
No, there was nothing that I wanted to ask. I feel like this is me and my own neuroses, I think. But with something like that, I would only want to ask something that I couldn't just Google. Because I feel like it's a waste of everybody's time if someone asks something that's a basic. I mean, people don't know that, but when I watch a lot of videos one person does, con panels they've done, or if I go to a bunch of panels they've done, or watch a lot of interviews, it's the same thing will come up a million times. And why are you wasting everyone's time doing this? And when I interview people at conventions sometimes, and I always try to do unique or interesting questions. And I had no burning need to know something from Greg Sestero's point of view, because he's done so many interviews. And I haven't read the book either.
Oh,
I've had a copy of it for a while, and I felt oh man, if I ask something that's in the book, I have a copy of it. I don't know. But again, that's me being neurotic.
Yeah. And
part of that's being, I would want to ask something interesting. I was just a few weeks ago, my friends Deb and Isaac and I went to a solo show John Darnielle did.
Oh my
in
gosh.
Mobile, Alabama.
He's
and it
the
was
best.
Amazing. And we were sitting there, and he did a Q&A, and Devin wanted to ask something, but he didn't know what to ask, and he and Isaac were talking back and forth, and then he raised his hand, and he was like, "What's your favorite class to play in D&D?" And John Darnielle had been answering these questions about his music that he obviously didn't want to answer. I mean, he was very gracious, but he's I don't want to explain what these songs are. But Devin asked him that, and he was like, "Oh, a cleric." And then he went on and talked about it, and it was clearly Devin did a good job asking something that was personal without being too personal. And he gave a really interesting answer, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." That made me happy.
John Darnielle is one of my heroes, and I would so love to have him on Yumi Empathy someday. Maybe.
Oh my God.
It would be a dream.
He's amazing. Well, I don't know him as a person personally. I have met him. He's always been very nice at shows, but he is an incredible person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we drove all the way to Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
We've been to Durham, Mobile, Birmingham, Atlanta.
He plays a lot in that area. I've only seen him once, and it was up in it was during the Get Lonely tour in it would have been 2007, and I had been listening to his music since the late '90s, and I was able to see him in 2007 up in San Francisco.
Wow, right after, a couple years after Sunset Tree, so that was like,
oh yeah, and Sunset Tree was
blowing up,
magnificent. Yeah, I totally relate to the idea of not, because I've been to Q&As like that, and I'm an introvert, so I feel like self-conscious anyways in sort of a large group of people, but also totally relate to your thought pattern and in that not wanting to sort of say a thing that you can sort of easily access by a Google search, because there's something almost, I find, and this may be sort of a judgment, but there's something I find in Q&As where you're right, people do say the same things over and over again, and sometimes it feels a little bit like they're just wanting to hear their own voice sort of speak in a room full of people,
like, that's not why everyone's there. They're not there to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I'm happy to hear that you got to meet Greg Sestero. He seems like an interesting guy, and get your book signed, and also happy to hear that he was nice and gracious and all that. So good.
He seemed very nice. Yeah, he seemed a little tired, but it was late at night, and I'm sure he's like been flying around and working on a bunch of different stuff.
I bet.
It's a really good experience. Because I have met people who've been very rude.
Yeah.
Like people I was a big fan of, which is interesting talking about this subject too. I've had people really brush me off. People in a context where they're like at a convention or something at their table. Not like, I'm not like approaching people at a restaurant.
Sure.
Or something, which I feel is really inappropriate. But,
yeah. Yeah. I want to explore that in a bit. I just wanted to give my sort of check-in this week. Two things going on this week. So one is my therapist and I are recognizing that I need to get out more, and by that I mean like just have more face-to-face time with like actual humans, because I work from home and I can sort of I can get very isolated, and I love my job, and so I can just work at home and be very content, but also recognize that I need some face-to-face time from time to time, because one thing I'm finding is that when Jessica gets home, my wife gets home, she, it's almost like haven't seen people all day, and then she's a teacher, and so she's been sort of seeing people all day and like sort of subsuming all of their emotions and sort of managing all of their emotions, and then I'm sort of she gets home and I'm like, pay attention to me. It's like, it's a little,
after she spent all day.
Yeah. It's a little unfair of me. So I'm finding that like to mix things up and get a little bit more of that for myself, I need to get out more. So I got to, on Thursday night, I got to have dinner with Christina, a friend of mine, future guest of You Me Empathy, and it was great. It was nice. She's great to talk to, and just good to get some face-to-face time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The other weird thing that happened, and this is a little darker, is so the listener knows that like in my late teens and early 20s, I had an eating disorder that sort of stemmed from a really deep depression and sort of feeling out of control in my life and managing my parents' relationship, all that bullshit. And I've sort of grown out of that, and but there's sometimes I do have weird moments where it sort of comes back in weird ways, like not like it's affecting the way I'm eating or anything, but someone said to me, I think it was my chiropractor said, you look thinner, he said. And I was like, oh, okay. And I felt weird about it. And I don't think about that stuff really. I've been sort of training for this race coming up. And that may be the reason why, but I think I'm bringing it up because it also felt strangely good, and I felt weird and sort of conflicted about that. And Yeah, I'm just bringing it up to say that was a weird sort of emotional conflict this week, and I don't know. Yeah.
There were definitely times I haven't like struggled with an eating disorder specifically, but like in college, if I would have a really stressful week and my anxiety would be really bad, I would have trouble eating, not because of my relationship with food, but just because, I would be really stressed out and nauseous.
Yeah.
Or when I had a couple of falling outs with people and stuff like that, and during that I would be really stressed out, and I would lose a little bit of weight, and it'd be like, "Oh, you look so good," and it's like that's because that's terrible. It's like it's not good.
I know
that I'm a little bit skinnier, but I'm not. It's not a good thing. I would much rather weigh more and be like happy than being like, "Oh man, I lost like 5 pounds in a weekend, but it was a bad weekend."
Right. Yeah. There's still that sort of gross stigma, gross sort of cultural, thing that someone loses weight and it's sort of necessarily a positive thing or something.
Yeah, because it's not.
It's not necessarily. I mean, it what matters is what's going on there emotionally, what's going on there physically. Like, where are you at? Where are you at in terms of your mental state? That's what matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. Anyways, let's get into talking about you, Shannon, and parasocial relationships. So I guess I want to ask you before we get into what parasocial relationships are, why you brought this topic to me, and I think it's an amazing one. I'm really excited to chat about it. Why? I mean, why? What about parasocial relationships sort of intrigues you and has maybe impacted your life?
There's a lot to that. I guess it would start growing up. I'm also an introvert. I'm very shy. I've gotten better about it, just like necessarily doing videos and doing convention panels and stuff like that. I have to be comfortable interacting with people to a certain extent, or to network or whatever, which I hate doing. I tried to do a lot of that late college and a little bit after college, and it was just a nightmare. And I'm like, I just want to make friends, like sincere friends, and not talk to people who are much older than me who don't care about what I'm saying, or like desperately try. So I didn't have that many friends when I was younger, and I did use like video games and anime and stuff like that as like a substitute in some ways.
Yeah.
I think not to the extent a lot of people do, or especially as I got older too, there were a couple of periods of my life where most of my friends had moved, and I didn't have as much social interaction, and I would use stuff like that to kind of try to make up for it. And now that I'm making videos, and a lot of my friends are making videos or doing other stuff online where I know a lot of people who have a much bigger following than I do, like a sizable following, or who've been doing it longer than I have, and seeing the way that people treat them, usually completely inappropriately. Because there are some people who really go out of their way to foster parasocial relationships with their viewers. YouTube encourages it, which I talk about in that first video, encourages it behind the scenes, and it's an easy way to endear people to you and make a lot more money and get a bigger audience. But what you're giving up is like, now you have thousands of people who are like, you're my friend, and they need you and they want stuff from you. And to me, that's just horrifying. But people who don't even do that, who like, I actively discourage it or try to, and then I still get weird messages. And I mean, it's one thing, I understand the appeal of this sort of material and why people like it, but like, I'm like, if I don't actually interact with you, if there's not a reciprocal relationship, then we are not friends. I have 11,000 subscribers now. I can't be friends with 11,000 people.
Right.
I physically could not, if I tried. My brain could not, I don't have time. So it's trying to negotiate putting up those barriers while still, I want to be accessible to a certain extent, and also I think a lot of people like my videos because they're a little bit more personal. But yeah, there was a different topic I wanted to talk to you about, but then I got it was around that time I was getting some weird messages and stuff, and I was like, I can't do that right now. I can't be vulnerable and personal. I don't mind talking about, like, when I was 16, I watched a lot of anime because I didn't have any friends. Like, I'm perfectly fine talking about that.
Yeah, I want to explore that a little bit, but first I want to maybe define what parasocial relationship is. Could you sort of encapsulate, what that is in, a couple sentences?
Yeah, it's a one-way relationship, like not a real relationship. It's like some with like a fictional character or a celebrity or a public figure. Like, you listen to a podcast every weekend and then you feel like you know the host, like you know their personality or you know how they would react to stuff, but you don't.
Right.
You think you do. You really don't know, like, what how does this person react in private? How do they react when they're angry? How are they when they're, like, drunk or something? Like, you don't know. People think they do, but...
Yeah. Right. And it was first, as you mentioned in your video, and we'll link your video in the show notes, it was referenced first by Horton and Wohl in 1956 to, quote, this is from Oxford, refer to a kind of psychological relationship experienced by members of an audience in their mediated encounters with certain performers in the mass media, particularly on television. Obviously, at that time, television was new and exciting. I want to explore a little bit of sort of your childhood growing up and your, obviously it was a source of creating these relationships with anime characters or these fictional characters was a source of comfort for you, was a source of, coping with the idea that, maybe I don't have many friends. Like, I can so relate to that. And I have lots of examples of that. Like, how did that come about? Like, what, walk me through that process, how that came about.
I think I just mostly through middle school. In high school, I got a lot of friends. Which was very strange. I wasn't used to it. And there's still elements of, like, adjusting to that after feeling very isolated. And it wasn't, I was fortunate. It's not like I got badly bullied. I got bullied a little bit online, but mostly, like, in person, people were mostly nice to me, but mostly just, like, ignored me. I was very quiet. I didn't stick out very much. I was just kind of, like, there. Teachers liked me because I behaved and I was smart, but, like, other kids didn't really, that's not really exciting to other, like, 14-year-olds or whatever. Sure. And I was on the computer a lot, like a whole lot. And then when I was younger, I would, like, play on Neopets, which wasn't really a parasocial thing. I wasn't that attached to the pets. I mostly like games and stuff. And I would try to talk to people online, but like I said, people were the communities I was in when I was like 10 to 13 weren't the best, and people were very mean. That's one of those, like, I got a pretty thick skin. I went to middle school in a very, I would say pretty rough area of, like, on the south side of Atlanta. And then I moved when I was around middle school, high school, and to an area that was, like, way more out in the country, which had its own problems too. I felt very out of place in both, in certain ways in both areas they were both sort of difficult places for me. Yeah. Like, any public school in Georgia isn't that great. Isn't that great. Not at all looking down, like, being classist or whatever. Just, I would say I didn't have the easiest time in school. Yeah. And then I did, like, anime and manga a whole lot. I don't as much anymore, but when I was, like, early teenager, and it was like, I don't use movies as escapism, really. I love movies. Film is, like, my thing, but it's more of, like, an emotional or an aesthetic thing. Whereas when I used to watch a lot of One Piece or play a lot of video games and stuff, that was absolutely, like, I need to get outside of myself for a little bit.
So you felt like you were in, and I can relate to this. I am very introverted, and I was especially very shy in middle school and high school. And so, I can relate to the idea that being in that space and not getting being ignored or not getting any attention or whatever, you're going to but you're going to be drawn to things that bring you joy, which is in stories, elsewhere. Like, I certainly got a lot of that in reading, as a kid. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and the friends I had in like elementary school either moved or were not very good friends. There was one friend I was very close to in particular that I think probably did a lot of damage. Not like she wasn't like abusive, it wasn't terrible, but I think she um, uh, later on the way, and I mean this was when I was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, the way an adult described this relationship was like I was like a toy that she would get bored of, or that kind of thing.
Oh.
And it's like when you're really really shy and you don't have a lot of contact with people your own age outside of your family. Because I am very fortunate, I'm very close with my relatives, so I was able to be like socialized and play with kids my age that I was related to.
Yeah.
Because I think when I was around people a whole lot, eventually they would like me. It would just take me a long time to open up and stuff. But yeah, I think part of the reason I loved, like I said, video games and anime and manga so much was that it was like I had to do something with my time, and I had a lot of free time, and it was a fun way to spend that rather than just sort of like feeling lonely or feeling like, why am I weird? Why don't people like me? Why don't I have that many friends?
Yeah, I think that's a natural response. What did you feel like you had relationships with some of those characters? Like, and what did that look like for you?
I don't think I took it that far.
Mm-hmm.
But I did especially I have a video, I don't know if you've seen it, about the anime and manga One Piece, and just about how it's very much, it's a cliched thing in anime and manga, but it's like, here's a group of really different people who come together and they get really close and they mean a lot to each other. And that was not something I had in my life. And it was sort of like living like a vicarious thing, but it wasn't that thing of like, oh, this person is my friend. I didn't take it that far.
Yeah.
I don't think at any point, even when I was like 12. Although I think it's interesting, speaking on One Piece specifically, and I'm going to talk about this in the next video, there was a character that was introduced like way far, like years and years and years into the run.
Hold on. One Piece is what?
It's an anime and manga.
Okay. Sorry, I'm ignorant of that world.
You're fine. You're fine. If you want to hear about me talk about parasocial stuff, you should watch that video that I did. But there's a character that's introduced. I don't even know how many hundreds of chapters in, but he's like a huge fan of the main characters. He gets starstruck and he's like immediately overwhelmed when he talks to them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the comments of like any video that he's in on YouTube, everyone's like, "Oh, that's us. That's me. That's how I feel. That's how we would feel." And it's cute. I think the way he's handled is very interesting because it's funny because it's so over the top when he's so starstruck, but it's also he's portrayed as someone who has his own stuff going on and he's like a formidable person, but he just happens to have this like obsession or this, I don't know. Because it is, they like call him a nerd and they're kind of put off, but it's really cute. I don't know how else to put it. But what I thought was funny is like when you read people's responses, they're like, "Oh, that's me. That's how I would be. The author is portraying us, all the fans, all the nerds." I'm like, I guess that is a way to look at it. It's very interesting.
It is interesting. I think like an interesting, the divide, right, of parasocial relationships is on the one hand, in your experience and mine, and I'd imagine many people's, there is a certain aspirational, like inspirational quality of parasocial relationships where I am sort of connecting with Billy Coleman as this character from Where the Red Fern Grows, and sort of imagining romping through the woods with dogs and sort of hunting and just having those sort of adventures, and I got a lot of value out of that, and I got a lot of it was escape, and in some ways it was escape from some dark areas in sort of my family and my life that I felt that I was scared of, so it's a coping mechanism, but it's also, there is some value there. And then on the other side of it, you have people take it too far, right? And where it's impacting their mental health in a way that's unbalanced,
There are, and this is a little bit dark, but especially on, I really like Red Letter Media And I'm talking about their videos, and there are a couple of like the edgelord YouTubers who I don't want to say who they are because people should not watch their videos. But in their comment sections, there are always these comments that are like, the video is 40 minutes long or whatever, and someone's like, well, yeah, I'll get to put off killing myself for 40 minutes. I get to pretend that I have friends or whatever. And it's like, don't say that.
Yeah.
It's like, you need therapy, you need help. Like, you cannot, I would never want to get a comment like that, because then it's like, oh, if I stop making videos, this person's joking that they're going to kill themselves. But it's not that comes from somewhere sincere. It's not just a joke, or it wouldn't be this like meme.
Right.
It's posted on like every Red Letter Media video.
Wow.
Because a lot of their stuff is sort of conversational, like they watch movies and sit around and talk about it. So then people feel like, oh, I have all these comments. They're like, oh, I have friends for an hour. Even if they're not talking about suicide specifically, it's like, that's sad. I mean, that is sort of how those videos can feel sometimes. It's like, you really need to stop sitting here at your computer, or just like sit at your computer, but go on a forum or go on Twitter or go to like clubs or something and like make actual friends. Because like, you're never going to be friends with these people. I'm sorry. You're never going to have a real relationship with these people. It's very unlikely. And to just sit here and focus on it at the detriment of real relationships with people in your life that could be much more fulfilling.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
You could do your own stuff. You could have your own movie night.
Yeah.
And then,
comment boards, like I'm not on YouTube much. But I do understand and have seen sort of strings of YouTube comments, and for the most part, what I've seen is what you're describing. It's very, I want to leave a comment and sort of see a reaction, right? It's not really...
yeah, good or bad. That's what people want.
Right, good or bad. And that's sort of like ties into, I think, a little bit of like just fan culture, right? Like online culture is like almost become this hyperbolic, like hyper passionate, like it needs to be like all something or all nothing, and I think that's damaging as well. Oh,
it's horrible. Especially like, I try to be a little bit more nuanced in how I approach things. I mean, I'm honest about how I perceive things, and I have my politics that I stick by. But people will get so upset if you're not, if you allow for any kind of nuance or or if you say, a lot of what this person does is bad, but I see this value in their work, and someone's like, oh, no, and so people get really mad. And you have to, what's really hard sometimes about being someone who makes the kind of stuff that I do is I really want to be open to criticism and to changing. And if I'm saying something that is offensive or hurts someone, I really don't want to do that. But it's separating people who are acting in good faith versus people who just want to get mad at something. Are people who are trolls, are people who like are very controlling of who I am friends with or what I watch. I got called racist because I watch a certain YouTube channel. Like, even though I admit there are problems with it and whatever, but that's part of it too. People feel like they have this relationship with you. And then if you do anything that's outside of what they consider acceptable, they're completely heartbroken and so upset. I got a Curious Cat question today, which was not creepy or weird at all. It was perfectly fine. But the person was asking, like, how do you handle it when your heroes say or do something awful? I think talking about like Terry Gilliam and some other stuff that's going on. Yeah. And I haven't responded to it yet, but my answer is basically, don't have heroes. I'm sorry. Don't idolize people, or don't feel that you know how someone is personally, because you really have no idea. I've had people in my personal life who I've been very close to who I then found out were like horrible people, or I'd done something that I considered like not just like, oh, they lied about something or they made me mad, but done really heinous, like awful stuff a couple of times. And it's like, well, like, how can I pretend that I really know what kind of person John Darnielle is if I didn't really know someone I knew for over a year and saw a couple times a week? Like,
yeah, you can't. And you're right. And I think that's a realistic, but also like brings me a little sadness, because
no one wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear that. You're right, but it's true. I would reframe it like, instead of don't have heroes, I would reframe it like, just don't be so narrow-minded and understand that, life is very complex. And while the people in our favorite media can bring us some value, we, at the end of the day, don't know them. We don't know them personally, and with that comes this understanding that they could be whatever. They could be good, bad, whatever. But like, don't be so just. I have a hard time with narrow-minded thinking, and I think, I have a lot of baggage when it comes to sort of religion. I'm not religious anymore, but I was raised in that world, and it sounds like what we're talking about. It was such a all or nothing type of mindset. And I think those all or nothing types of mindsets don't allow for any sort of empathy. They don't allow for any sort of like critical thinking or listening or nuance in sort of rationale or just morality or anything, and that's dangerous, I think.
And it's unrealistic. I mean, if you want to live a life where every time someone says something that's like even remotely upsetting to you, then you cut them out of your life, and you never and then it's like, okay, that's the way you want to live. That's whatever. That is not how I live. And I talked about in my political correctness video, I really got out in front of stuff because when I was a teenager, I got into these online communities where it was like in real life and online around the same time. I finally had friends, and I was interacting with friends who were like cool, who I liked talking to, who didn't treat me poorly and whatever, or who I didn't feel awkward around. And online, not in I didn't cuss at all in person until I was like in my 20s. I was very like, straight laced. But online, I used a lot of language that now I would consider really offensive. Not directed at a person in like that group, but like edgelordy kind of. I don't want to say any of those words on this podcast, but I would say stuff that I would never say now. And it's like, if someone found that, which I'm sure it's out there, they'd be like, oh, haha, but I got out in front of it. I was like, I said these things. I regret it. I don't feel that way. I understand that it's like hurtful and alienating. I didn't mean it that way at the time, but that's not an excuse. And I think everyone should be able to grow up and own up to it. Whereas if someone was like, well, okay, in 2008, you used this word on a forum, and this is really offensive to me. So I'm like, okay, I was a teenager. Like, what? I was dumb. I totally disowned that. If you don't accept this apology, if you don't accept that I've changed and seen that it's inappropriate, then there's literally nothing. I can't go back in time.
Right.
And change the way that I felt about,
Yeah.
So people, I'm so disappointed in you. It's like, well, I don't owe you, I don't know.
Yeah. You don't owe them anything.
No, I don't. I mean, I try to be friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to be very, it's like I have a friend who, this is something that I had never thought about, or would have thought about, but I started some of my videos saying like, hey guys, and I had a friend of mine who's non-binary who reached out to me, like, maybe don't say that,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very polite. And I was like, okay, my knee-jerk reaction was a little bit more defensive, but then I thought about it and I was like, what does this doesn't hurt me at all. And I understand where this person is coming from. This is not something I'm super married to. There's other stuff that I don't want to change that people have been offended with, but it was like something like that. It's like, that's not that hard to like, that's sort of off topic with parasocial relationships, but it helped too. I actually know this person.
Yeah.
It wasn't someone who I'm like, who are you, have like 3 followers. Could you be, some alt-right person just trying to get a rise out of me?
Well, it makes sense in the context of parasocial relationships because we like to, I've said it on this show before. We like to put things in easily definable boxes, right? Yeah. We want to say a thing is a thing and sort of wipe our hands free of any sort of outside influence, and that thing is that thing forever, which is just so, as you put it, unrealistic. And it's unfair, especially, like, I know I've done dumb shit that's online that I don't want people to see, but if they do, like, understand that we all change and grow, and having no sort of room for that frame of thinking is not going to make things easy on you or the people in your life, Yeah,
and it's like somebody, to go back to John Darnielle, I mean, he was like severely addicted to hard drugs for a long time. I'm sure he did a lot of stuff that he's not proud of.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit there and like bring it up. But I've had, without naming names, it was around the start of the Me Too movement, I think. I had 2 online friends who I talked to fairly often, and both of them I found out some stuff about them that was pretty bad, and I quit being friends with both of them. You really have to know where to draw the line.
You do.
Yeah, one person. This is very dark.
Please,
if you want to cut this from the show, feel free. But one of my online friends who I talk to fairly often, I found out was a pedophile who had distributed child pornography multiple times. And I was like, I'm sorry, I cannot be friends with you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I felt it was one of those things. It was a very amicable. I sent this person a message, and this person was like, I understand.
Yeah. That's
one
tough.
thing where it's like, I don't really understand why people are still friends with that person after everything that happened. I'm not saying that in a judgmental way, just like for my own mental health. And a lot of people who, I don't know, some people who I am friends with get a lot of heat for certain things that I think are silly. Whereas someone like that, I'm like, I can't. There's some things too. I want to emphasize also that there are certain things that I feel like I don't want to. Someone in my eyes cannot come back from that, and I don't want to be friends. You have to draw the line somewhere, and pedophile is definitely where I draw the line. As far as someone I would be a fan of or be personal, fairly close personal online friends with.
I think you made the right choice in terms of drawing the line at pedophile, and I'm sorry you had to go through that, but
it was very strange and upsetting.
Yeah. Well, I want to sort of explore this idea that so in parasocial relationships, and I'd imagine they existed. I mean, I would argue that they have existed as long as stories have been around, right? Because we as humans, I think, have a sort of innate tendency to connect with stories, right? Because stories can be these aspirational, inspirational things. I read a story and I want to be that character. I want to befriend that character, however you want to take that, or I want to write a story like that, whatever it may be. Like, I think stories have always been around, and I don't want to focus. Like, I think what I'm saying is I think that it's important to recognize the balance, right? Recognize, because parasocial relationships isn't either good or bad, right? They are complex, and it's important to recognize that there's a lot of value in them, and there can be some trouble areas as well, like anything. And that's really what we're saying here is like life is muddy and complex, and important to recognize that it's ever changing as well.
Yeah, I think they've been around since people have been around, but it was the 50s was when, or were when, I guess it's plural. That is when people learned, like, oh, I can really manipulate this and start monetizing this.
Right.
It was like, because it went from, and Horton will talk about this, it went from ladies and gentlemen, blah, 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 to like one person looking at you through the camera being like, we're friends, let's be personable.
Right.
Which is completely creepy and inappropriate. I think a lot of people do it now without realizing it, but or maybe the first people who did it didn't really realize it, but over time, there've been obviously all these studies and all that about a very deliberate manipulation of a vulnerable audience in order to get attention and money, specifically money.
Speaking directly to individuals as opposed to an audience, a sort of amorphous audience.
Yeah, instead of like it being that there being this dividing wall, this like more formal, I'm speaking to a wide audience, right, as someone might have done before that, as a TV presenter might have done before that. It becomes, here, this is very intimate. This is me talking directly to you. It's fine, we're friends, but it's like, it's not. And I think what I want to talk about too is the effect this can have, the very unhealthy effect this can have on someone who produces content.
Yeah.
Whether it's for TV or whatever.
Well, I've jumping off of that, and that's, I think, a really interesting facet of this, because I remember that in reading and watching your video is, like, I've worked in marketing, right? And marketing is very much like that, where where you're trying to define a target audience and you're like getting into granular details in terms of demographic and age and ethnicity and all this stuff, and the language isn't like, hey, you group of people. It's like, you specific person, I am talking to you. You want this product, buy it because it's going to make your life so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're special.
Yeah, we're special.
You need we're special together or whatever. Yeah.
So how are you, like, as a someone who creates content? How do you balance that? Because I know you said you're trying to sort of be more balanced in terms of that. How are you addressing that?
I think there are places where I draw a hard line about what I'll share about my life. Mm-hmm. I do not talk about my family very much. I do not talk about my like dating life, whether that's happened. I don't talk about if I'm dating someone. I don't like put pictures of them up or whatever. I don't talk a lot about. There are some people who I am friends with who also produce content who are fairly well known, where I talk about that friendship or I talk about them, and then there's some other people where I don't. That's sort of more private. That's also something that's been really weird for me, coming from like a kid who didn't have that many friends. It's like now I'm friends with so many people who do stuff that I think is so awesome, and it's like, wow, this is overwhelming. This is really cool, and never wanting. I am extremely neurotic, neurotic in like a good way, about never wanting anyone who I'm friends with who does that kind of stuff to feel like I'm using them for popularity, or feel like I'm only friends with you because I like the videos that you make or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because I have had people make me feel like that. Yeah. I think a story worth sharing, this might be really petty to bring it up, but something that happened fairly early on in all of this for me that was a really an experience that really shaped me in some ways is there's someone I knew in person for a very long time. We were in the same like film club kind of thing. And this person always kept their distance to a certain extent. They were not like mean or like a bully or anything, but we just like weren't really. I wanted to be friends with this person and they weren't interested. It's like, that's cool, that's fine. You can't hold on to people like that. It's whatever, it's life. And then I know I talk a lot on Twitter about the Chapo Trap House podcast, and I know some of the people who run that. And I had done a drawing of them that got featured in a magazine article about them a couple of years ago. Nice. Which is really cool. Yeah, when they were first starting out. And then this person who had been way too cool for me in real life followed me on Twitter. Well, they mentioned me on the show. They gave like a short shout out. Then this person followed me on Twitter and was trying really hard to be my friend right after that happened. Sure. And I found that very offensive. That really upset me. It was this like in-person Shannon, who you know better than a lot of people on Twitter would, is not someone that you want to be friends with. But now that, oh my God, I know these people who do a podcast. Oh, interesting. Wow. So I'm not even close with them. I'm not even at that point, especially. It's like I get mentioned on this show once and suddenly I am a very desirable person to be your friend. Interesting. This person was trying very hard. And I feel, part of me was like, I should have confronted them about that, but I didn't. It would have been different if they had been actively malicious to me at any point. They weren't. I don't think they're a bad person. I don't, but it was very transparent. Yeah. And I would never want someone to feel that way, that I am using them in that way, or that I only care about them because of this like weird parasocial like fandom kind of thing. Whether it's someone I'm trying to be friends with or anything like that. I try to be very cognizant. That's not the only time something like that has happened to me, where someone who I had very little relationship with or had a falling out with or whatever, it's like, oh, suddenly after this thing, it's very like I said, it's very transparent. And yeah, and just people who I don't know, that kind of like, it could be an audience member too. Like, you don't really care about me as a person. You care about me because you see me interacting with this person, or you think like, oh, well, I do this stuff on YouTube, so I don't know. Yeah. It's just like trying to be friends with someone under pretenses other than I like you as a person, and I think it would be fun to hang out with you. Whether it is like online fame or any of that kind of stuff.
I mean, social media can be such a dehumanizing thing, right? Like, we're all so wrapped up in it. And it's why, like, I'm sort of steadily getting more and more tired of it and using it less and less, is because in doing this show and sort of going to therapy and stuff, realizing that I actually need more actual real connection with people, as opposed to, I think the predominant language online is, you know, in our exchanges, is just surface bullshit and sort of pettiness, and some of the stuff that you're describing that I just don't have, I'm just tired of, you know? So how do we as, like you, I create content, right? This podcast is content, and I am trying to, you know, actively foster a community of people who want to embrace empathy and vulnerability in terms of connecting with humans. And I bump up against this thing that you're talking about. Like, how do you do that? Like you said, obviously you maybe try to limit some of, you know, the personal stuff that you share, which does what? Does that sort of limit maybe some of that type of response or language from your community?
Not as much as I would like, because I know there are people who give pretty much no personal information and still get people being weird. I think there's one thing I wanted to talk about on this show that I think is relevant here. That's going to be in my next video that I'm working on, but it's definitely worth talking about. I should have linked it to you, but I forgot.
No worries.
I found this video just clicking around. I'm not like a fan of these people, but I'm really aware of what they do just because I try to keep up with YouTube stuff. But like 3 really big Let's Players, as in, you know, like people who play video games on camera and record it. There's like, everyone knows who PewDiePie is. And then there's Markiplier and Jacksepticeye are 2 other really big ones. And Jacksepticeye is this like Irish dude who's probably, I think he's like mid-20s. He's pretty young. And I've never seen, like, especially doing research for these videos, I've watched a bunch of his stuff. And he does not seem at all like the type who would be offensive on purpose. I don't know him, obviously, but he seems fairly nice. Versus PewDiePie, who like said the N-word and stuff, who seems pretty terrible. But I originally, just in the video, I wanted to use this video clip of Jacksepticeye talking about like people drawing fan art of him and Markiplier having sex and how uncomfortable it makes him. He's like, please don't do that. I've asked you not to do that. Like, he's my friend. I think some people probably would. I didn't read the comments, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people like accused him of being homophobic or something. But he's clearly just saying like, this guy is my friend, and please don't do this to us. And don't send it to me. This makes me feel really weird. And like real person there's like thousands of like fan fictions written about them.
Whoa,
which is really weird. I really don't like that kind of stuff. As someone who like I have gotten messages about multiple men that I know, like, oh, are you dating it? Like weird people online are like, you're dating that person, right? And it's like, no, well, it's none of your business. Like, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop doing this. But then what I found that was just like so fascinating and heartbreaking is this old Jacksepticeye video where he's playing a video game a fan made like about him, and he's like enjoying it, and then he gets to the end of this video about it, and there's a little like author's note in it sort of talking about like, when I wrote this, I was thinking about all these comments that I see that are like, I'll never get to interact with my hero. I don't mean anything to him. I just wish. And he like is reading this off and he starts crying. And at this point he had 4 million subscribers, which I can't even fathom that number. And he's like, you know, I wake up every morning and I read all these comments and I don't know what I would do without you guys, because in real life, I don't really have any friends anymore. Like, I go to the store and stuff like that, but most of my friends are through people who I work with on YouTube, or they're you guys, and you mean so much to me. And I just get so upset when I feel like I can't respond to everyone and all this. And I'm sitting there thinking, you have 4 million people who you feel beholden to in this way. I think Ireland's population is less than 5 million people, and he's Irish. Yeah. And it's like, you can't, like, could you think that you could talk to everyone in your country and be friends with them? And now he has 18 million. And I'm like, I really hope that this guy who seems, from everything I can tell, he seems perfectly nice. It's just he didn't have that many followers, and then he became friends with PewDiePie and blew up very quickly. And it was just like, he is handling this so poorly, but this is how he's been told to do it. And it just made me very sad. Like, the fact that this person who seems really nice feels like he's a failure because he can't be friends with 4 million people. Is completely like, what a miserable way to be. And the fact that he said, I don't know if this is from a few years ago, hopefully he's gotten better, but he's like, I don't have any real life friends. I only have people I know on YouTube and my fans. Yeah. I'm like, that's awful. You need people. It's very, very important to me. Something I do too to mitigate this kind of stuff is my real life friends who I've had for years. I really purposefully try to value people, one, who knew me before I ever did any kind of YouTube stuff, before I had any of the social capital at all. And two, who don't care about any of it.
Right.
You want people who are confused but supportive, like vaguely supportive.
Yeah.
I had, I used to live with a couple of my friends, and we were setting up. This is a very strong memory that I have. We were setting up for a party, and I was dressed as the Joker, and my friend was dressed as Wolverine. I remember this, nice. And I had done one of the first Film Nerd videos, and a couple of my other friends were over helping set up. It was like a heroes and villains party where you either dressed up as a hero or a villain, and we all competed. It was really fun.
So you were the hero?
I was the Joker. Not the Joker, I was the Riddler. Sorry, I would not have dressed up as the Joker. No. It was the Riddler. It was a cute costume.
Nice.
The Riddler, and Tony Joe had just retweeted one of my videos of Every Frame of Painting, who's like my favorite editor ever. He's amazing.
Oh yeah,
he was
Every
really
Frame
smart.
of Painting. I've heard of his stuff.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful too. He ended up being very one of those people that was like, I feel like braggy about it, but we ended up being friends, and he was super supportive, and he helped me a lot early on. But that was when we first connected. He retweeted something I did and said some very complimentary stuff, and I was freaking out. And my friend I lived with was also freaking out. I was just so excited, and it was so incredible, and I never expected that. My other two friends had no idea who he was, but they were like, cool, like, I'm happy you're happy. This is neat, which I like that versus that kind of like the kind of people who would see that and then be like, oh, I want to be your friend more because this person. It's like, no, you should want to be my friend because of me, not because of my videos or not because of this.
Yeah.
And I think I really appreciate my family. My family is very disconnected from this kind of stuff, but they are. When I'm like, I was in the AV club, they're like, oh, that's really cool. I'm not gonna watch your video, and I'm like, that's good. I don't, because I can get. I think a danger to me with all this kind of stuff is getting too much of an ego or getting too invested in this kind of stuff, which it should matter a lot more. Like, am I being a good person? Am I doing good work? Than the amount of views or who I'm friends with or whatever. I mean, who I'm friends with as in like social capital kind of stuff. I think it's very important to keep grounded and keep like normal friends who don't care about what you do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You know, this guy who sort of what's his name again? Who was expressing like.
I think his real name is Sean McLaughlin or something like that. His username is Jacksepticeye.
Jacksepticeye, yeah. You know, there is that weird sort of pull to like, it's almost like this false sense of authenticity, right? Like where we have, I don't know, over the last like few years, there's been this sort of push to like be authentic, and it's I think it's a fake authentic, right? And that's what you're saying is like, you know, him expressing this thing, and I hope it's not real. I hope that he does actually have real life friends, because we need that. What's sad is it seems
sincere. He was like crying, and it could have been a put on, but although at the end too, he was like, "Don't forget to smash that like button" or whatever. But you could tell it was like putting the mask back up.
Yeah,
getting back into character at the end of like crying about not being able to respond to YouTube comments,
and that feels gross.
Dismissive.
Right?
Yeah.
It feels gross.
It feels really gross when he's like, oh yeah, make sure to do this and do that, and I'll see you in the next video or whatever.
So, like, how are you doing things differently? I mean, obviously you're keeping grounded by having people in your life that, you know, aren't really connected to that world, and I think that's a great way. But like, in terms of when you're creating your videos and how you're interacting with people who are responding to your videos, like, how are you doing things differently?
I don't like YouTube is like you need to have like a special name for your fans and give every single one like individual attention. I don't do any of that. I've tried even before I was as aware of all this kind of stuff from my first video essay. I'm trying to be like the persona I would have is like a friendly, approachable like teacher or professor.
Okay.
That's what I would want. The vibe I want to put off is like not like a friend who you're hanging out with, but someone. And there's a level of that that's a little pretentious because then I'm saying I'm an expert when maybe I'm not. But that's what it's like I have done research on this and I want to share this research with you and keep it to some point like scholarly or educational or analytical.
Yeah.
Which I don't do in all my videos. I like being a little bit personal because I think it helps people. That kind of stuff has helped me. Or like talking in my Hannibal video about queer representation and what that means to me as a queer person and all that. I think that video was helpful. Or in my political correctness video where I talk about I wasn't like an edgelord, but I said a lot of stuff that I would find offensive now, and I've had my own journey, and I think that helped some other people come around, which is very nice. I know people like H. Bomber Guy and ContraPoints and Sean and Jen, like, or Sean, whatever. They get at least some comments that are like, I was sort of going towards being all right, and then I saw your videos, and I was really pulled back, and I really appreciate that. And that's the best feeling in the world. Like, I do not want comments that are like, I really like you and I want to be your friend. I've gotten some that are like, I love you, Shannon. You're so wonderful. And I'm like, stop, don't do that. But when I get comments that are like, your video helped change my perspective or it helped me through a difficult time, I think I can accomplish that without making people think I'm their friend.
Yeah.
Because you can read a very academic book and it can be very impersonable. And still, because I care a lot about having a positive impact. But I try to avoid.
Well, you see some value in providing a little bit of personality because that gives your audience a little bit of you. Otherwise, you're just, a boring sort of one-dimensional teacher, right?
Yeah, and people don't get invested in that.
Right.
I'm sure I haven't. I used to do educational videos like professionally, and I know there was an element of like if we make a teacher seem more like a person, not necessarily like you feel closer to them, but if you humanize someone and you like talk about their hobbies or talk about some insight into their life, then it's a lot easier to connect with them, even if it's one way. And I think it is very hard to strike that balance. There's content that I've wanted to do, like there's a whole D&D series I'm planning to start.
Oh, cool.
I'm excited about it. I've gotten the most of the first script done for like this sort of like documentary style thing about I want to DM and I'm learning how to DM, and it's like, well, you can learn along with me. And I want to record videos of my friends and I playing, but I've been talking to my friends and I'm like, do you want me to use your real name in this? Do you want to be in this? I was like, you got to understand, like, there's certain this could be really successful and it could be really fun and it could get a lot of people into the game and we could get a lot out of it. And essentially at a certain point, like, monetizing it, I would be able to provide so much. I could pay people to film it and buy really cool stuff for my friends who play if I can't pay them. But there are certain sacrifices, and I'm like, that's sort of, do I want to go down that road? And I do, because I think I'm going to do it. But I had to have that sort of conversation with myself and with my friends. Yeah. Because that is more, people watch, not necessarily the little documentary video essay style thing, but if people are watching my friends and I play Dungeons and Dragons, that people watch that stuff because they feel like they're playing along. Sure. Most of the time. I think some stuff, like, people watch Critical Role because they're like, here are these cool, attractive, professional, fun voice actors who are playing this game. I could not watch Critical Role because they're 4 hours each, and it's like 100 episodes. But some people have that time. Well, and that's and enjoy that kind of stuff. Yeah, and that is a valuable parasocial relationship, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah. But when people, I would rather, and I don't want it to sound like come across sounding judgmental, because I like the Adventure Zone a lot. I've been listening to that. But those are much shorter episodes. It's like, I would rather get my friends together and play D&D in person than watch Critical Role. And I do that a lot. But I am lucky that I have those friends that I enjoy playing with. And that's my preference or whatever. It's interesting. Like, I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you say, the sort of how you want to represent yourself online and what makes sense for you in terms of your
mental health and stuff. And I think that's good. I think we all have a different approach to that. And I don't think one way is right or the other. Like for my situation, like doing this show and sort of, therapy and all that stuff, like I've found a lot of value in being more sort of open and vulnerable and sort of honest with, the people I connect with online. And maybe that's just a matter of the medium that I'm in, or the sort of genre of thing that I'm doing. Yumi Empathy. It makes sense for that world. And I do understand that there is a line to draw there. Like I don't want to take it too far and have it impact my mental health in a way that's, I'm just drained all the time or whatever. Like I need me time as well, but I recognize that there is a little bit more of the personal stuff that I share, and that that's a good thing for me. And that's how I guess that's the difference, is like, I'm not really thinking necessarily about, is this going to sort of promote the show or whatever. It's just like, being more vulnerable and open has been a sort of bright spot in my sort of online mental health and sort of ongoing therapy. I don't know.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think it's wherever you're comfortable drawing the line. And I probably did when I was younger, but I think I'm pretty good when I'm talking to my friends about being vulnerable or about being honest about my feelings. I'm a pretty good communicator. I'm pretty direct. And it's more for me with like an audience. Once I sort of seen where once people feel like they know you or that they have an expectation of you being vulnerable, then sometimes they're like insatiable.
Yes.
It's even happened with people who I was sort of friends with online, who I knew from this or that. And I talked to them and then they would like send me multiple messages without a response and start getting really weird. And it's like, okay, this is where this friendship ends. It's about boundaries and how respectful people are of your boundaries, wherever you're putting them.
Yeah. Boundaries are so important. Like you can easily become you're the person that, listens to people when they're having struggle days or whatever. And I've been in that position where I'm not creating those healthy boundaries where I can say, hey, you know what? I'm not in the right frame of mind now. I can't do this. And that's a good thing. That's self-care.
You have to not like put yourself first and everything, but I think that's a difficult balance. And anything is because you want to be kind and be empathetic, but you also need to take care of yourself and stand up for yourself. Because I have definitely known people in my life who had problems and who should have been speaking to a therapist.
Yeah.
Who, I was like, I am not a therapist. I mean, I love being there for my friends and giving advice and stuff, but there are some specific people that were just like, I can't really help you. And I'm trying, but it's getting, I mean, then when that person is like a mostly anonymous person that you don't know, but they're trying to get that from you too. That's when it gets really weird with that. It's not someone, here's this person I've known for years who's struggling in a way that I can't really understand or help. And I feel like it's just making our relationship worse versus like, here's some random person on Curious Cat who is, which is like an anonymous question asking service, whatever. I don't know if people listening would know what that is.
No, I didn't know, so I'm glad you explained it.
I use Curious Cat a lot. People can submit either with the username or anonymously. They submit questions. And I've thought about deactivating it, but I really enjoy it when someone's like, I have trouble making friends. How do I make friends? Or if they're like, what, do you like this movie? Certain levels of question, but then some people get like very invasive or they feel like, okay, I've asked these things. Now I can ask this. Or it's anonymous, so I get mean messages too, which is, I would honestly, I got a really short message that had the C word in it that was very aggressive. And I would much rather get that than like, I feel like I know you.
Interesting.
That I would rather get like I haven't gotten a kill yourself style message. I've gotten some very mean messages, but I prefer that very strongly to there's one I got on my Hot Fuzz video that I almost have memorized because it was so creepy, and the person didn't mean for it to be creepy. It was something like, Shannon, I love you. I want to make a movie with you and triumph at Sundance together. I want to talk about movies with you forever. I hope when we die, God puts us in the same heaven.
Whoa.
So we can talk about movies forever. Like, I love your voice. I love your stuff. Amazing content.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like that. And I was like, this person, I think part of it was they were French and there was like a language barrier.
Okay. Yeah.
And a cultural barrier as well. I think that's more like being more open about that kind of stuff to me is like a little more European than it would be like American. But it was also like, no, this is a video where I talk about, I like Hot Fuzz because this. And your reaction is like, I love you, Shannon. I hope God puts us in heaven together.
Yeah.
Like, don't. I got some mean comments on that video too. And the mean comments, it's like, I barely feel anything unless it's like a threat. That's a little more. But if it's just like, who cares? I'm like, okay, I understand this. I can process this. This person will probably leave me alone if I don't respond. Versus this person says they love me. And people liked that comment too. I was like, who would like that? I was like, don't encourage this person. That's so uncomfortable. They did not, and it's the thing too, is they did not intend to make me uncomfortable.
Right. They were likely sort of thinking that they were being, open and speaking to their heart, right?
And being complimentary.
Yeah.
I got one on Curious Cat once that was like, I want to hold your hands in public. I was like, no, I would rather get... Someone also told me, I said I didn't like Children of Men, and they said I hoped I'd die because I don't like it. I would rather get the I hope you die because you don't like a movie than I love you because I don't...
well, there's
extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would make me too, but like I don't get that stuff because I'm not a woman. And that's the other side of this is the unfairness of sort of the men-woman divide.
Yeah, I will say some men do get it. Not to be like hashtag not all men or whatever, not to edit mostly women and especially like trans women I know who do stuff, women of color, stuff like that, get a lot of especially abuse. Sure. And certain people are fetishized in a way that I wouldn't be, but it is being a woman. Part of all of this as well as I work very hard. I desexualize myself. I am not like ever like cute or flirty or whatever. Like I just can't. Even if that was in my personality to do that, that's really not an option. I mean, more power to people, however they want to represent themselves. But for me, it's like because I'm not trying to be like slut shamey or I think the ability to represent yourself however you want to is important. Yeah. But I know even the most minor thing. I think when I was like 15 or 16 or 17, I put up a video on YouTube and I posted it on a forum. And it was just a bunch of my friends. Like, you can't see our faces in it. I had never posted a photo of my face online at that point. I was very paranoid. But there's a certain shot in it you can see my feet in it. And it was not intentional, And then I got this weird comment on this forum about my feet, about somebody liking my feet when I was like 16. And it sort of taught me like, oh, I can't be like physically vulnerable or have certain things because someone will be weird about it. And it's whether I can put up with that and handle that versus how much of myself I'm going to hide as a woman. That is something as a woman. But I will say, I know, especially like men in, without naming anyone specifically, men who do this kind of stuff, who are conventionally attractive or who work out or whatever, in a world of sort of
I like the way you say that, work out or
like,
whatever, because I have that same...
Like, anyways. Men who do this kind of thing, like, who are, by society's standards, more conventionally attractive, but who are also into, like, this nerd stuff. Sure. They get a lot of weird comments.
Yeah, I bet.
Not as much as a woman would, not nearly as much. Especially the comments aren't like, like fat cow, 5 out of 10 wouldn't fuck her kind of stuff. Sorry, I don't know if you cuss on the podcast or not.
Oh yeah, all language is valid.
But because and I am fortunate I don't get a lot of that like insulting stuff, but I do get. I love it. Your voice is so nice. Well, I don't really mind I like your voice or your hair is cute or I think you're cute kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm not gonna like get upset that someone very innocently complimented me once, but when it gets to be consistent or someone thinks that we're going to date because they watch my videos, or when it gets to be like, I love you, it's like, no, you don't. You don't know me. I could be the worst person. I could be a terrible person. I could be mean. It could all be an act. No one knows. People who know me personally know that I'm not, but...
Yes, we don't know. We don't know. So, find some balance.
Yeah.
What, 2 things I want to ask you. So putting aside your sort of YouTube channel, I have a question about that, but what are your personal parasocial relationships like? Let's just talk the positive. Like what are some sort of, what are you getting out of them? Because I'll just anecdotally say, like, for me, I definitely still to this day, find some joy and value in sort of putting myself in the shoes of characters or just imagining myself in sort of their worlds, and that, that provides some fun escape sometimes, or just imaginative work, right? Do you still sort of do some of that? And if so, like, what are some of the worlds where you're doing that?
Well, it's with fictional characters and with real people. I try to be careful about it, obviously, but I do still have the element of like, oh, this person put out a new video. Someone who I've like never really interacted with. This person put out a new video while I'm cleaning or whatever. I like hearing their voice. I like hearing their opinions. Like, what if we were friends? Like, and it's sort of almost like dangerous for me, the ego thing of like a lot of people that I've been fans of, I've been able to be their friend because I've been lucky and because I do my own stuff now. It's like an example I feel completely comfortable talking about because we are very good friends and we work together is H Bomber Guy, where we ended up being friends because I think my cousin's taking a shower. I don't know if that picked up on the mic or not, if you just heard a weird noise.
That's all right.
Someone commented on one of my videos saying, oh, I found you through H Bomber Guy. And I was like, oh my God, I love it. Stuff is so good. Like, let me go reach out to him. And the other person was like, oh, it was someone else. I'm sorry. And it was actually Ian Danskin of Innuendo Studios who I ended up being friends with. His stuff's really good too. But then I had like already messaged H-Bomb and I was like, oh, that's embarrassing. He's not a fan of mine. He doesn't know who I am. That's weird. But then he was like, oh no, your stuff seems good. And we ended up being really good friends. And we worked together and we hung out in New York when we both visited at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's been a very cool friendship.
That's awesome.
But it's someone who, he's got a way bigger audience than I do. And I never would have felt comfortable like trying that hard to be his friend or asking. He was the one who was like, do you want to work together on some stuff?
Yeah.
And that's a really cool. Well, with him, it's been very positive. With some other people who I've become friends with, who I was a fan of, it's been very negative. You really never know. And it's always trying in my head, like keep in mind for myself, like that can't always be the case. And I would never represent that as the case of like, well, if you're persistent and you reach out to someone, then you'll automatically be friends and get along. That's not realistic at all. But there are some content producers where there's a part of me that's like, I bet I could be friends with this person, which it's like a weird ego thing. And it's like, you don't want to just like collect friends, but it's also a very sincere thing of like, I really like this person's work. I would love to have a conversation with them about it. I would love to have that opportunity. And I don't play as many video games and stuff. I played a lot of the new Zelda game, but that's definitely not really parasocial. That's not really character focused. I will say one, it's not recent, but a really good example of that for me is both in around 2010 and around 2015, I played Persona 4. It's a Japanese RPG where you're like a high school student and there are a bunch of weird murders happening and you're trying to solve the murders. It's really, really fun. And a lot of that game is each new character that you meet, the dungeon that you're fighting in is like a manifestation of what they have repressed, what they cannot deal with. And then the boss you fight is like a physical manifestation of, like, there's a character, this is sort of a spoiler, but this is the best example, I think, from the game. There's this character who's sort of this like tough delinquent kid. And when you get to his dungeon, it's like a gay bathhouse. And you find out he has all these problems with his gender and his gender expression and feeling accepted and with his sexuality. And I related so much to that character and I love the game so much. And both times that I played it were when I was in a really bad place and when I wasn't around my friends as much. and it was like a surrogate in that moment.
Yeah.
Luckily I haven't, now I mostly play a lot of D&D, which isn't really, it's escapism, but I'm interacting with like 5 other people. It's not really,
right.
I would not call that parasocial. They're not real people, but I'm sitting, my friend Kevin is DMing. Kevin is right. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's like all these different layers to it. It's interesting. But yeah, I don't need it as much now, which is good. Cause I mean, as someone who has a few thousand followers on Twitter and I get a lot of Curious Cat messages, it's not like I need attention from outside of my, I get too much attention and I close off sometimes.
Right.
And I'm very fortunate. I have a very healthy friend group now. And I've always, like I said, I've always had a supportive family and stuff. So I'm not using that as much right now. But I do have that element of like, I'll find a new video series or whatever on YouTube and be like, this is really interesting. Maybe I can talk to this person on Twitter. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm like, I can't be that person,
Yeah. Well, I think you said
weird.
I think you said an important thing in that, you wanting to connect with these other sort of creators on YouTube because you like their stuff. And I think that's coming from a sort of open, honest, sort of creative, collaborative place. And I think that is a good part. That is a good aspect of Parasocial.
I'm definitely not cynical about it. I'm not like, oh, this person has a whole lot of followers. How can I use that to my advantage? It's not
right.
Like networking and all that kind of stuff. I tried to be that way or do that. And it just did not. It just made me extremely uncomfortable.
As it should. It is an uncomfortable thing. It's not natural.
No, and it's very video production and like film people can be very like ladder climby, kind of like, so like there are some people who I will open up to about what I do immediately. Like, oh yeah, I do YouTube stuff and I work with these people and I do this, and other people who I'm like, I know you're going to treat me differently if you know about that. Like, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm going to be like, oh, I do videos. Yeah. Let's change the subject. But yeah, and I mean, even like with Twitter, there are some people who I have followed and like politely interacted with for years before they followed me back. And you never want to feel entitled to anyone's attention. I would consider that sort of parasite, like with Twitter's. I was like, oh, this person is really funny and we have the same politics. Let me, I'll just be. And I think that has paid off for me almost more than anything else, is being empathetic and being fairly smart about that kind of stuff and just being I am hyper respectful of boundaries. And I think that endears me more to people than a lot of other stuff. When there's so many people who are just like, well, you're popular and I like what you do, so let's be best friends and let me just keep messaging you and keep trying to make the same kind of jokes you're making. I hope you like me. I hope you like me. Like that kind of desperation. Yeah.
Intent matters deeply.
Yeah. And how you express it. There are some people who I don't think were necessarily harmful, but who just sort of made me uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. That's understandable.
I have to be like that. It can read as kind of cold or mean sometimes.
Well, you're operating from a self-care angle, and I think that's important.
Yeah. I do care more about my own safety and mental health than am I going to upset this one person who I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that's good, and that's what we can control, right? Like, we can't control the emotions of others.
No, and that's the whole, like, the Jacksepticeye thing of being so beholden to people. Not in a, like I said, I want to be really aware, and I'm not, when someone's like, hey, this thing you said is offensive to me, and this is why, and let's talk about it, I'm very receptive to that. Or, like, accessibility in my work, I need to be better about captioning things. I have a viewer who I think is deaf, or a couple different people who have said stuff like, you really need to, and I'm like, yeah, I do, you're right. Thank you for this criticism. You're making me as a better person, and you're making my work better.
Yeah.
Versus, like, why aren't you catering to me specifically, and why aren't you behaving just the way I want you to behave and being friends with who I think you should be friends with, which gets very uncomfortable, and you have to put up a barrier with people like that because they'll never be satisfied.
Right. How do you, what are your goals in terms of your YouTube channel and your career, really? Like, I imagine you continue wanting to grow and be supported by your community financially or whatever to continue doing, the things that you love doing. So that's one question. What are your goals? And then the second follow-up is like, how are you, I guess let's just start with that. What are your goals with your YouTube channel and sort of your career in that world?
I really want to get to the point where I'm financially stable, which is a problem for me with splitting my time between this and freelance, because I'm doing freelance, it pays a lot better, but then I'm like, I'm not spending time on my YouTube channel, which I need to grow to eventually get to the point where I want it to be. And it's hard because, I mean, I love Patreon as a resource. It's amazing, but it's also like it's again that balance of, these people are giving me money. But I don't want them to feel like they have this special access to me as a person. That makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But I really just want to be able to do what I do and not have to worry as much about like bills, and also be able to pay people I work with and just have more money to have access to more equipment, or to make I want to make like some documentary features. I have a bunch of ideas, or to help like employ people in different groups, or people who might not get as many opportunities, to just be able to do something really cool and really positive with it. I don't even necessarily want to end up working in film, like larger film or television or anything like that. I think I really enjoy being mostly beholden to myself. I mean, also to my audience. I want to make stuff that matters to people, but I just kind of do what I want. Honestly, some stuff I'm like, oh, maybe that's not a good idea, but I make stuff that I'm very passionate about in that moment, that I think is really interesting, and other people pick up on that, rather than like, oh, what's the trend? I've been working for a while on an essay on the Tide Pod thing. And I kind of put off putting it out because I was like, this feels like I'm cashing in on something. But I have done a bunch of research, and I think it's really interesting because 8 people had died from eating Tide Pods before it took off or whatever, like infants and people with dementia. And nobody cared. People don't normally die from eating a detergent. It's because the Tide Pods are highly concentrated. Right. And old people, like people with Alzheimer's or whatever, think they're candy, or little kids think they're candy. And it's like the lives of 8 people, nobody cared. But when these people, and this plays in the parasocial thing, like teenagers or whoever on the internet, they're like, I'm going to eat this to get attention. And then everyone else is like, oh, look at this pathetic person, I'm going to laugh at them. But it's like, you're giving them the attention. Like, that's when it took off, not when people died. Right. So I think that's really interesting to talk about, our need for positive or negative attention and validation, and then people feeling really good about themselves for dunking on a dumb teenager. Like, anyone can make fun of a teenager who eats a Tide Pod. It's like the lowest hanging fruit in the world.
Well, just teenagers in general. We're all dumb.
Yeah, they do dumb stuff for attention. Like, wow, how revelatory. It has nothing to do with our generation, it just had something to do with our generationally, the internet facilitating this. But I thought it was really interesting. It's like, nobody cares when a person, someone at an elderly care home, I think in Canada, died.
Yeah, that's
from
terrible.
Eating a laundry pod rather. It's just why wasn't someone watching this person? Why weren't they taking care of him? Right. Why are these things are designed to play on our subconscious desires for certain foods. They are designed that way. They look like candy, and that's why all these people died that didn't have to die, because if it was normal detergent, they wouldn't have drank it. And if they had, it wouldn't have hurt them that much. Yeah, that's sort of a side tangent. But it's I thought a lot about that video, and it's I didn't want to just be writing away. I'm not interested in doing that. Yeah. There are a lot of things that I could do to get a lot more views. Some that I should do. I should be more consistent putting stuff out. That's something now that I'm making more money on Patreon, that's more viable to me. And I might want to do more collaborations with people. It's been really fun working with H-Bomb. I'm actually editing something of his right now that should be out next month that I can't talk about, but I think will be really, really fun and really interesting.
Nice.
But yeah, I think I just want to grow to the point where I'm financially stable and I can support other people and just do work that I think is fun and important, and do more conventions, and that I do enjoy that. I'm not like, oh, I want to, here's this YouTube hobby for a while and eventually I'll get a real editing job. I don't want to do that. I mean, if something came along that I thought was really, if Adult Swim called me and was like, do you want to edit this show? I'd be like, yeah. Sure. I would, sorry to say, if something I enjoyed more came up, I would probably abandon my YouTube stuff, just because I care more about doing work I think is important and fun than any specific outlet or anything like that. I would not want to stop doing this to do something like reality TV or something I thought was like morally weird. I've had opportunities like that. I am in some ways very proud of myself because I've had opportunities that would have come at a certain like ethical cost to me. And I was like, yeah. And sometimes I regret it.
Good for you.
Yeah, I have a lot of debt and I live with relatives and stuff, but I can sleep at night or whatever.
Well, I mean, I think you're saying an important thing, and I know you don't need my validation, but I think for the listeners, I think an important part of that is do the thing that you want to do, and if you're passionate about it, I personally believe that people like that. People will be drawn to that, and you know, me speaking to you, Shannon, like I love the work that you're doing on YouTube, like, because it's very clear that you're passionate about it. It's very clear that you do a lot of research, and that I learn a lot, and I like to learn, and therefore I'm drawn to the stuff that you're doing. And I think if we continue to approach the things that we create, the things that we do in our life with that frame of thinking, I think the better off we will be mentally and emotionally, and then our communities will be as well. Yeah,
rather than doing something
like I want to take advantage of this algorithm or some bullshit like that. I don't want that.
How miserable. You can find certain ways. Like I started doing the movie reviews just to get more content out. And that's more, some of them are bigger. Well, I haven't done any huge release movies, but like art film, like Shape of Water and like Baby Driver and stuff like that people, I'm like, I know someone would be interested in watching this review. Or it's like Shape of Water wins Best Picture, so I tweet the review out again. But I did enjoy watching those movies, and it is like it's something but it's not like I'm just doing, it's not like I did a fidget spinner video. If I had like a really interesting angle on fidget spinners or slime or whatever, like weird stuff, then I would do that. But I think there is I have a certain amount of boundaries, but I'm very sincere. I do sincerely care about the stuff that I'm talking about. I quit. That's the film nerd videos. People like those a whole lot. And then I did one and it didn't get the response that I had wanted. And the reason I didn't like the response is because I was doing it sort of out of obligation to that series. It's like I made my Man video and very few people watched it, but I didn't care because I was like, I know nobody's going to watch this, but I care a lot about this. And this is, a big deal to me. It's a band I really like. I don't care if anyone, I would hate it. It would suck if I made this video and all of my patrons were like, and left. That would be bad, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah. And when I made that video too, talking about parasocial relationships, the front man ended up, someone sent him that video essay and he reached out to me and told me how much he appreciated it.
Oh, that's
and
great.
How he found it moving. Yeah, and then I got to go when I was in New York. I went to a show he was on, and he like gave me a hug and told me how much it had mattered to him that someone paid attention to his work and how he had shown it to people and stuff. And that was like, I'm not friends with him.
Right.
Ryan Katner, Honus, is his stage name and stuff. I don't pretend to be friends with him, but that was really cool because I did have a parasocial, like with his work, with his persona and with his music mattered a lot to me.
Yeah, you were validated. You're this thing that you're passionate about. You put it out there, and then he connected to it in a way that validated your passion, and your perspective.
That was such an incredible, wonderful moment that made me so happy.
That's awesome.
Just more, not that like, he noticed me, but it was more like his work has meant a lot to me in my life and has helped me through some really difficult times. It was like the fact that I could be like, hey, what you did is really good and matters. And he like heard it, was more than I could have hoped. And that means a lot more than like 1 million views or however much money.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes all we need is for someone to say, hey, I see what you're doing and I appreciate it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be either like, I like compliments. I like your stuff is good, but more what matters like I said, what really is almost overwhelming sometimes is when someone was like, I was going through a really hard time and then I watched this video or I watched a series and it kind of took some people like I was being really elitist. I was being kind of an asshole and what you did helped change my life. It's like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever get any kind of comment like that. I didn't realize the kind of power that I have or the kind of influence I could have, and taking that responsibility seriously as well.
Yeah.
And being very careful about what I say and what I do and what kind of ideas I'm putting out there, knowing that there are like teenagers who watch my stuff and college students who watch my stuff who are very impressionable.
Sure.
And speaking out against content that I think is actively harmful.
Mm-hmm.
Are speaking out against nobody. It was a friend of mine on Twitter, Devin Alex H, who was told me about parasocial relationships, and I was like, oh, that's what this is. This is horrible. So, not always horrible, but the way that it's monetized and manipulated is horrible. And I was like, I need to talk about this. And the response to it's been really cool. Because people don't, if something isn't articulated properly, or if they're not really thinking about it, then I think anyone is susceptible to that.
Absolutely.
So you really like someone who you really like their work, and well, it doesn't hurt, you're not being, I think a lot of people on the left get really upset that Chapo makes a lot of money. The podcast they make, oh my God, they make like $90,000 or $100,000 a month.
Wow.
It's really crazy. But they're getting that from donations of $5 a month from people. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not exploiting someone when they give you $5 a month. I think they could do other stuff with the money, and I understand those kinds of complaints. But you are exploiting someone when you're like, okay, buy all of my merchandise and spread all of my stuff, and we're really good for. They don't have that, okay, well, I really need you to do this. You need to support me, help me, share this to your friends. Like, we're friends, right? Like, you're my special little audience. Give me all your money. Like, here's my tickets that are like $100. There's I don't think being necessarily successful is indicative of being exploitative, but when your methods are preying on vulnerable people who just want to have a friend, I think that's kind of evil.
Yeah,
that's really bad.
That's no good.
Really, yeah.
Well, I think this is all very fascinating, and I think there's so much here, and I think I want to start sort of winding down, though. I did want to just reiterate that what we're saying here is, balance. Find a balance that works for you. Do what Shannon does, create your thing, be passionate about your thing, put it out into the world, because you are proud of it. I think that's the right frame of thinking. And also it's okay to find inspiration in sort of the characters we read or the characters we see on screen, or even feel connected to them in a certain way. But, just have a healthy perspective and balance, I think, is what I want to sort of wrap up with, because I don't want to discourage people from finding inspiration in characters or aspiration in characters, or even in, your example, Shannon, in growing up. I don't want to discourage people in, finding sort of survival or coping in, imaginary worlds or whatever. I think that's all very important. It's
very natural.
It's very natural. Yeah, it's very natural. But, just don't be, I don't want to tell anyone what they want to be. Just breathe and take a moment and understand, like, how far am I going to take this? And, focus on self-care, understand that we can't know the fictional people, or not the fictional, but the celebrities in our lives that we may have interacted with on social media. We don't know them. And so just know that going into these things.
Yeah, no, I would never say like Mr. Rogers was evil. He meant a lot to a lot of people, and I'm sure kids who had like abusive or negligent parents, being able to tune in and have like a supportive authority figure who went by Mr. Rogers. He didn't go by Fred. That was important,
right?
Some level of boundaries or whatever. Who was like, none of those kids actually knew him, but he had I think, a wonderful impact on the culture. And, there can be a lot of positives. Or I guess Dora the Explorer is more of an example of that. That's really manipulated for like marketing and stuff. But I'm not saying Dora the Explorer is evil either. I'm sure but it's like she sells a lot of little Dora toys. It's like, or you sell a lot of Elmo toys. Sesame Street isn't evil, but there's an element of it that's like children are really. But yeah, I think it's about balance, and it's about being aware that this is happening to you.
Yeah.
And being aware when someone says, when you're looking at a screen and the voice on the screen says you're their friend, your response shouldn't be, yeah, we're friends. It should be, no, we're not. What do you want from me? What are you trying to get out of me? What's going on? Versus like being, I think if anyone gets something out of my videos and they sort of feel like they know me, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. They do know some things about me. But when someone sort of crosses that boundary and thinks that we're friends or thinks that, well, she seems fairly accessible, so I'm going to be your friend. It's like, I got a lot of friends. So I'm a little closed off compared to how I used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's, and I would encourage people to, I have the video on it, which I think came out pretty good. People can check that out, or just read the original Horton and Wohl essay from the 50s. It's fascinating. It's not super long. It's fairly easy to read. They have a lot of really good concrete examples from that time period that are really interesting that still absolutely apply to like vloggers and Let's Players.
Totally. Yeah, I'll link all that in the show notes. Well, let's wrap up here talking about our empathy heroes. Mm-hmm. Is there an empathy hero you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, I think I saved talking about this person until this point. There is a guy on YouTube named Matt Colville who actually just had a hugely successful Kickstarter, I think because he refused to have a Patreon, but he's got a lot of really hardcore fans. He just did a Kickstarter for a Dungeons & Dragons supplement and stuff like that made over $2 million.
Wow.
Which is insane. But his videos, what he's most known for is a series called Running the Game, where he's talking about DMing and doing D&D, which I don't know if I would have cared that much about, but I started watching some with my friends, and he is so focused on, you have to be welcoming, you have to be accessible, you have to he's so encouraging and so positive, and seems very sincere and honest and direct. It's like when you find someone who is direct without being mean, I think that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
And I always try to be anti-elitist and positive in my work, but he was such a great reminder of I could be doing even better. And he's been such an inspiration. And I've tried to talk to him on Twitter and I've never gotten a response. And it's that thing of okay, I need to just calm down. And if, maybe can't be friends with everybody kind of thing. But yeah. Matt Colville's stuff, he is just amazing. And it's weird to be that, because I think, I care, ideologically, it's I care more about political stuff and progressivism than I would care about D&D, but just his outlook, he's had such a positive impact, I feel on that culture.
That's amazing.
I think he'll just get bigger. And I think I absolutely love his videos and his sincerity and his passion for what he's talking about. He's very chipper. He's in his 40s, but he's very energetic and he seems, and I just, I love everything that he does.
Awesome.
And I do want to be his friend, but I don't think I will.
He sounds amazing. And, he's
great.
I've played some D&D. I haven't played a ton of it. I always enjoy it when I do, but I also, it can be overwhelming. So having someone be so sort of welcoming and open and warm about that's got to be a huge value for people.
And him also being don't make women feel weird.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember specific things he says in his videos, but he's basically people of color and then queer people and that sort of stuff. He's very much be accepted and don't make people uncomfortable. Don't use rape in your game. Stop it. He is it's cool enough that he seems very kind and whatever, but it's also very that he's actively, because there's some stuff that people wouldn't think about. You don't have to be creepy to think, damsel and kidnap princess or whatever. It's maybe just stop doing that. And I think he's just, when you find someone who just seems like such an overall positive person, it just makes me happy that he's doing what he's doing and that he's so successful at it as well.
Yeah. That's great.
He's great. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Who's yours?
Thanks for asking. Mine this week is, so as of this recording, we lost, one of the great thinkers of our time, Stephen Hawking.
Yeah.
And, I just wanted to mention him and, just, sort of mention a quote that he said. He said, quote, "So remember, look at the stars and not at your feet." And I just, that's something I try to sort of live by, being a little bit more sort of aspirational, be more, sort of imaginative, be more present, but also mindful of sort of what can be as well, I think is an important part of growth and learning. And he was just such an amazing thinker. And Stephen Hawking, you're my empathy hero this week.
Good choice.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, I really enjoyed chatting about this with you. I think I could talk for another couple of hours on this topic. I think it's pretty fraught with nuance. But before we go, if you wanted to just promote anything, your YouTube channel, whatever you want to promote, places where folks can connect with you, where are those places?
You can find me on YouTube under Strucci Movies. I got the So You Want to Be a Film Nerd series and the Fake Friends is the name of the Parasocial series. Out of everything, I would highly recommend people check out that first episode and that. I think it's a really good introduction to Parasocial. I think I kind of rushed editing it. I wish I had it a little tighter, but I'm still really proud of it. You can find me on Twitter at Strucci Movies just for like updates on content, like podcasts I appear on or my videos. And at Plenty of Alcoves is my personal account. Or if you look up Shannon Strucci on Twitter, Plenty of Alcoves will come up. I'm really active on Twitter. I have the Curious Cat. I don't respond to everything, but I'm pretty accessible on there up to a certain point, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And if you look up Scanline is the series I've done with H Bomber Guy, and we have an episode out about VHS as an aesthetic and as a medium that I'm very proud of that we worked on together. That was really fun.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure to link all those in the show notes for you guys. But thanks again for being on You Me Empathy, Shannon. I really enjoyed connecting with you again, and I just appreciate what you do.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me ramble.
You're good at it. You're good at rambling.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You, Me, Empathy.